Yo, 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 what's that word? This is the 3012 Inning Podcast. I'm your host, Broderick. Welcome to episode 7. We got a lot to get into today, so let's get right into it. Sir, so per Bleacher Report writers Tyler Conway, I want to talk about a little bit about this article where some Lakers executives would prefer exploring Anthony Davis trade possibilities next year after this season, when LeBron's eligible if he doesn't sign his extension to be a free agent. We're gonna talk about 5 different trades I have for that next season. I like to highlight though a lot of these trades are not contingent, or they are contingent upon Russell Westbrook not being on the roster, and for some of these teams with other big trades out there that we've heard about, with it still being possible that they get those trades done. After we talk about those trades, I'm going to talk a little bit about LeBron James and maybe what he should do with his upcoming contract extension eligibility. So without further ado, let's get right to it. The first trade I like to go over would be a trade between the Lakers and Trailblazers. Now this trade can't be completed until January 15th because 2 of the players just signed brand new contracts over the all season. Now, we know the Trailblazers are trying to compete now. I mean, there's evidence of that with them giving the long extensions to Damian Lillard, Anthony Simons, and Yusuf Nurkic. So, the first trade I had was Yusuf Nurkic. Ooh. I think he's a lot older than what people think he is. He's still a young piece that can grow with the Lakers. But I had Yusuf Nurkic, Anthony Simons, 23 years old. Yusuf Nurkic, Anthony Simons, first round picks in 2025, 2027, and 2029, going back to the Lakers, and the Lakers trading Anthony Davis and Austin Reeves, which is a good deal, in my opinion. They finally get Dame the help he needs to possibly win a championship. Obviously, AD will be the best player that Dame has had to partner up with. It'd be debatable who's the best out of them two if AD could stay healthy. They still got Jeremy Grant there. They bring in some solid veteran talent for Dame to play with this year, and adding a player like AD will give them the defense that they've been missing. Chauncey Billups, he'll be in his 3rd year as the coach. Obviously, he teaches sound defensive principles. I think this is a good trade for both parts. Obviously, LeBron will get less shot creating opportunities, and Yusuf Nurkic is a great big for rebounding and passing purposes. Maybe he get played off the court in the playoffs, but I think the Lakers' offensive potential will be maximized with this trade, and he also get 3 future first round picks to set them up for post LeBron era, which could be this next season. They got a young star and young player with all-star potential in Anthony Simon, who's almost works as a 4th, 3rd round pick. So I like this trade. Again, y'all like, comment, subscribe. Tell me what y'all think down in the comment section. Visit Hattie'sCollection.com, please. Now we're moving on to the second trade. Now it's between the Lakers and Bulls. Now again, for the Lakers, they're trading Anthony Davis and a 2nd round pick they just picked up this year, Matt Christie. Showed a lot of defense in the summer league. In high school, he was known as being a shooter. Struggled with it a little bit at Michigan State, but if he can get his form back right and develop it a little bit more, develop his handles and his off-ball game, I think he'll be a nice piece. Now, what the Bulls would be sending back to the Lakers would be the hometown kid, DeMar DeRozan. We already just saw him and LeBron balling in the Drew League. They look good as teammates. Again, Southern California kid, went to high school in Los Angeles, went to college in Los Angeles, went to USC, had a good career there, came in. He's a little older, but I think if he'd be a great player to maximize the time LeBron has left in the league. They were trying to get them there last year. For whatever reason, didn't work out. Obviously, the Lakers ended up with Russell Westbrook, and we all seen how that played out. So The second player that the Bulls will be sending out was Patrick Williams. He's 6'7", 215 pounds, 20-year-old kid. Very strong defensively. I watched him a lot. He's a former Florida State Seminole. He won the ACC Sixth Man of the Year coming off the bench as a freshman at Florida State. So a lot of execs and a lot of teams behind the scene compare this kid to Kawhi Leonard coming out. He had a big injury last year, which kind of helped explain some of the defensive shortcomings of the Chicago Bulls last year. I think he's a good piece to pair with LeBron. I think a wing rotation of LeBron, Patrick Williams, and DeMar DeRozan is very strong defensively. Offensively, Patrick Williams is a decent shooter that has potential to develop into a really good one. I think this trade works out for both teams. I think this trade works out for both teams, with the Lakers also throwing in, with the Bulls, also throwing in a 2023 first round pick from Portland and a 2029 first pick of their own. Obviously, the Portland pick, we honestly don't know how Portland's going to perform this year. Honestly, if I had to make a wager now, I say they'd be in the back half of the conference, not competing for a playoff spot, maybe for a play-in berth if everything goes well and they don't suffer many injuries. Maybe they have a good year, but I doubt it. The West is really stacked this year. So that'll have a lot of value to the Lakers. And then obviously the 2029 first round pick, who knows what any roster will look like then. But especially Portland roster, you got to think Dame will be at the tail end of his prime. If he's still in the league at that point, maybe he's considering retirement by that point. So that'll obviously be very valuable for the Lakers to rebuild their roster. Obviously, LeBron will be retired by then. So I think it's a trade that works out for both teams. So the third team, I know y'all gonna really like this one, and that's with the Brooklyn Nets. So I'll have the Nets. I'm smiling because, you know, I'm a huge LeBron fan, and this is just a fantasy. I want to see this. If this were to happen, it would be fire. We wouldn't hear about nothing, about no other teams. The Lakers, automatic championship favorites, in my opinion. So the third trade is with the Nets. I got the Lakers sending out Anthony Davis, Kendrick Nunn, THT, first round picks in 2027, 2029, and also a second rounder in 2029. So if there's a big package like that, you already know it wasn't for Kyrie Irving. The Nets will be sending back Kevin Durant and Seth Curry. Yes, Kevin Durant and LeBron James on the same team. I don't know how you stop them. Obviously, the Lakers had to throw in a lot of draft picks to get this done, but you got to do it. KD's the best player in this trade, obviously. LeBron and Kevin Durant probably don't have much. They don't have much time to win championships, as KD is 34, dealt with a lot of injury history. And I know with all these AD trades, people were saying, but AD's been hurt, he can't stay healthy. AD's arguably been on the court more than Kevin Durant in the past 3 years. Obviously, both of them are great players on both ends of the court, as far as speaking on KD and Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis is arguably the best players that the Nets could receive for Kevin Durant, as far as just singular talent is focused. And again, we talk about the fit between LeBron and KD. These guys know how to play ball. Kevin coming off screens, relieving LeBron of playmaking duties for some of the time, and the benefits for the Nets. Obviously, it seems like the Nets still want to compete with any Kevin Durant trade. Doesn't seem like they really want to trade him, in all honesty, because they just opened up that brand new arena. They're competing against the New York Knicks in the New York market. They're trying to sell out every home game, so it makes sense for them to want to give their fans hope and remain competitive. Obviously, that Kyrie Irving and Anthony Davis pick and roll would be deadly. Even the pick and roll between Ben Simmons and Anthony Davis would be really strong. Ben Simmons and Anthony Davis work really well as far as defensively. Seemed like that would go really well as far as the communication and things of that nature. Seth Curry, I don't want to forget about him. Obviously a great shooter. He's a Curry. Um, Him coming off of screens, getting out in transition, running to the 3-point line, receiving passes from Kevin Durant and LeBron James. He gonna have the best look he will ever have in his career. The Lakers keep a lot of pieces here. They didn't have to give up pieces like Austin Reeves and, of course, the elephant in the room, like I said beforehand, is this is contingent on Russell Westbrook not being on the roster. Obviously, this wouldn't work with KD and Russell on the same team. I don't think those guys want to play anymore. And you know, that's just part of it though. But they'll have to get rid of Westbrook to make this happen. But it seems like the Lakers are dedicated to make this happen. Obviously, it'll be more difficult with them giving up the 2 first-round picks, as we've seen those first-round picks being discussed in every Russell Westbrook potential trade out there. So it'd be difficult, and I don't see this happening. But it will be great for the fantasy mindset and for us wanting to see dominant basketball. This like Jordan Pippen on the wing. This LeBron and KD. So it's a nice trade. Let's move on to our 4th trade with the other team from the New York market, which is the New York Knicks. So in this trade, we have the Lakers sending out Anthony Davis and a 2028 first-round pick for, and this is a haul. The Knicks are sending to the Lakers Evan Fournier, Cam Reddish, R.J. Barrett, Emmanuel Quickley, 2028 first-round pick from Detroit Pistons, and 2025, 2027, and 2029 first-round picks of their own. So obviously that's a haul. This probably, in my opinion, this is probably the best trade that the Lakers can get because it balances the 2 timelines of competing for the future and also being competitive now. And the reason I say being competitive now, even though the Lakers are giving up the best player by far in the deal in Anthony Davis, is because Cam Reddish, R.J. Barrett, and Evan Fournier, even Emmanuel Quickley, they're all good shooters, young talent. They're all in their early 20s besides Fournier, but he's in about his mid-20s. They all space the floor around LeBron. Obviously, that'll increase what the Lakers need the most, which is wing production and just bodies on the wings. These are all nice-sized players. Cam Reddish has a lot of untapped potential. He played a lot like LeBron in high school as far as his play style. I think that's hindered his career some with him basically being turned into a 3-and-D wing when his development timeline was he was more of a ball handler. And that started at Duke. They kind of took the ball out of his hands. Obviously, it was justified with R.J. Barrett and Zion Williamson being there. But I think if he gets into practice, training camp, learns from LeBron, get more comfortable with his game. Same thing with R.J. Barrett, learning from LeBron, learning how to limit turnovers, make for his teammates while also hunting out a shot. Emmanuel Quickley is a very underrated guard, very speedy, can shoot really well. And obviously all those first-round picks, if those players don't reach, I'll say R.J. Barrett doesn't reach his all-star potential, the Lakers get 4 first-round picks, including one from Detroit next year, which we know is going to be a high lottery pick. Detroit is more than likely going to struggle this year. And with the Knicks, I mean, obviously they're chasing the big fish in Donovan Mitchell. Y'all wouldn't believe, after this trade, I did this all with the NBA trade machine, they sent out 4 first-round picks. Through 2029, the Knicks still have 8 first-round picks and good contracts with young talent to trade to go get Donovan Mitchell after this Anthony Davis trade. So just think about a core with Jalen Brunson, Donovan Mitchell, and Anthony Davis. Offensive firepower, they got the defense there, and they still got veterans and young talent they could still have on the team to make other moves. The Knicks are very well set up for the future. I know it's been a long time since we said that. It's been a big boost since Leon Rose got in their front office. He's really changed things for the better, and I think these guys have a bright future. They just have to pounce on it. Now for the 5th and final trade, this trade will never happen. Obviously, arch rivals. But I thought it was a decent trade. I want to discuss it with you guys a little bit. Again, like, comment, subscribe. This is between the Lakers and the Celtics. Now, hear me out. So the Lakers would be sending out Anthony Davis, THT, first in 2027, 2029, and a second round pick in 2029. So a huge haul. The Celtics would be sending out to the Lakers Marcus Smart, Jaylen Brown, Robert Williams, I apologize, and a 2029 first round pick. Now, let's talk about the Lakers part of it first. So they're sending out AD and THT, and they're sending out basically the rest of their first round picks in the 2029 pick. Obviously, that's a big decision to make with the franchise, especially sending them to an arch rival. But what you're getting back is great defensive players, a player that can create his own shot in Jaylen Brown. Him and LeBron will make a real strong wing rotation with Marcus Smart locking down the guard positions, and they can rotate there. Marcus Smart also takes playmaking responsibility, duties, some away from LeBron James. Obviously, that's going to shift in the playoffs. But as LeBron ages, he gets younger players around him to carry the load in a sense. And they receive a 2029 first round pick. That's for the Lakers' benefit, obviously, for when LeBron is retired and gone from the team. They'll be building around Jaylen Brown and Marcus Smart and Robin Williams, the same core. They'll be older. Jaylen Brown and Robert Williams will be approaching their primes at their times. It's debatable if any one of those are number one options. But as we know, the Lakers, they grab some talent through the draft. The majority they focus on free agent signings. This leaves them the space by the time 29 comes to reevaluate their boards and see how they want to go. They got a first round pick coming back. Obviously for the Celtics, AD, Jason Tatum. I think that Marcus Smart being replaced, he can be replaced adequately by Malcolm Brogdon and Derek White. They do kind of some of the same things defensively, offensively. There's probably a little bit more shooting with the addition of Malcolm Brogdon, with the addition of Danilo Gallinari, and other pieces coming off that bench. They can put Al Horford at the 5, have AD take on the 4s, Tatum more back on the wings. They lose some playmaking, but overall I think this is a solid trade for both teams, and the Celtics get those picks to build for the future in case, God forbid, AD, continues to be injured as he has throughout most of his career. They get those 2 first-round picks and a second-round pick to build on in the future later on while Tatum is still young. I believe he's only 23-year-old at this time. So around that time, he'll be the best version of himself, athletically wise, and way more mature in the game. He already has a couple conference finals appearances under his belt and an NBA finals appearance. Didn't perform that well on the NBA stage, had a lot of turnovers, but AD will help out a lot with that. So with that, we move on from the trades. I want to talk about a little bit LeBron's upcoming contract decision. He's been eligible ever since August 4th. So the pros and cons. These lists are so weighted in certain directions for me in particular because, well, let's just start about with the cons. I mean, the cons is, for the Lakers, obviously they lose in my opinion the greatest player of all time, their primary playmaker, their primary scorer, leader of the franchise, the face of the league at this point. For the past 15 years, LeBron has been the face of the league, so they're losing a huge piece. I guess the pros for LeBron and for the Lakers is you have more of a direction of what you're trying to do with your future. With LeBron on the roster, you have to have a commitment that I'm going to go get the pieces in order to put him in the best position and you in the best position to compete for an NBA championship. Obviously, they showed that when they went out and got AD and they won the 2020 championship. But that's a lot of stress on a general manager and a front office every year to live up to that standard. As we know, with the league, with players shifting so much and incoming rookies, you never know who's gonna come out, who's gonna shine, who's gonna take a step back, who's gonna break out. So it's a lot of pressure for a front office having LeBron, but you know, with great players come great expectations, so that's part of the job. Obviously, Rob Pelinka, I mean, in all honesty, it's been pretty shaky for the last 2 years. We've seen him with Andre Drummond and Dennis Schroeder signings. You know, arguably, if AD would have been healthy in that first round series, who knows? They looked like they had control of the series against the eventual Western Conference champions, Phoenix Suns, for that year. And as we saw last year, injuries hampered the Lakers a lot. But again, back to Rob Pelinka, the Russell Westbrook trade was a disaster. It was a disaster. If you watched the Lakers last year, it was almost unbelievable how they were looking in the games. They struggled offensively and defensively. They really didn't do anything well besides bring great viewerships. And that's why I believe Russell has to be moved from the roster. I think LeBron, it's been reported that he's been campaigning to get players like Kyrie Irving. Obviously, that would involve moving Russell Westbrook. We seen what happened at Summer League where they didn't really acknowledge each other, although there was a piece that came out after that all AD, LeBron, and Westbrook got on the phone and kind of, you know, made a commitment to try to make it work for the coming season. But as we know, like in marriage and relationships, when you're talking about like trying to make it come together, that means that things was on the rocks, that was going shaky. So I think that for LeBron's sake and for the Lakers' sake, it's honestly better if he moves on. He wants to play with his son Bronny, when Bronny's eligible for the NBA draft in 2024. I think it's best for them to move on, but obviously we also seen LeBron love Southern California. His family loves it there. He got his businesses there. He probably wants to retire a Laker, so I can respect it either way. I'm going to be rocking with him. People that rock with LeBron, they're going to rock with him either way. But, you know, it's you damn near got to commit to the acknowledgement that a great player is going out more than likely without the chance to win a championship in his last couple of years. And a player like LeBron at that. So, you know, that's a tough pill to swallow. But I thank y'all for experiencing episode 7 with me. It was a joy. Again, y'all like, comment, subscribe. Visit HaddixCollection.com. Got new merch dropping soon. Y'all have a good one.